is there anything else that you wish you had known at, 25 or 26 in your mid to late 20s that you wish you had done financially?
Hello, and welcome to Financials Podcast, Future Rich. I'm your host, Barbara Ginty, and I'm also a CFP, which is a certified financial planner. And I am very excited to be back here for season 8, I believe, in the year of 2025. And I would like to welcome Cindy as our first guest. Hi, Cindy.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
So why don't you fill myself and all of our listeners in? How old are you? What's your relationship status? Where you live? How much you make? What you do? All that stuff.
Great. Well, I'm currently 25. I'll be 26 in a couple months. I work in nonprofit development and in a more administrative role. And I'm married. I've been married for a little over a year. And my husband is an IT technician.
Very nice. And where in the world are you?
We're based in Connecticut, in Southern Connecticut.
Okay, very nice. East Coast.
Yeah.
Well, congrats. Almost 1 year married?
Yeah, we've been together for a really long time before then, so it was a long time coming, but a really, really good time.
Nice. Okay, perfect. And then what do you make in nonprofit development?
So my current yearly salary is $70K.
Perfect. And then what about your husband?
He's just switching jobs right now, but he makes around 50. He's about to make 55.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so then household income were about 125,000.
Yeah.
All right. And then do you want to walk me through your expenses since I was unable to access your Google sheet?
Sure. So this is actually getting on this podcast and being with you as part of like our New Year's resolution to get our stuff together financially this year. So we've done a lot of budgeting in the last few weeks. We tried to set up a 2 times a month budget meeting to kind of discuss everything. So I have all the numbers like right in front of me, which is
amazing.
Good. So do you want me to go like line by line through our necessities?
Yeah, perfect. That would be great.
Okay, so what we have budgeted for, we have a house, so our mortgage is about $2,409 a month.
Okay, you have a mortgage, and say that one more time again. How much is it?
2,409.
Great. And what's your interest rate?
Horrible. It's like 6.5 or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, it's not actually horrible. It's horrible. Everything's relative. So it's horrible probably because you saw the interest rates of like 2.5, 3.5.
Yeah, exactly.
4. But 6.5, it's come up a lot over the past, I guess, since like 2020. But the historical average is closer to 7. And then you did a 30-year fix.
Yes,
presume.
And we're first-time home buyers, so I think that's probably why we got a better rate.
Yes, and then you can always, if rates do come down, like if there were an instance where rates come down, you could just check it. You can always refinance it. Obviously, you want to make sure you wouldn't refinance for 6.25 most likely. You'd want to see kind of a bigger gap there because there is a cost to refinancing your mortgage.
Right.
But
what percentage would you advise?
I would say you would want to run the numbers on it, but I would say if you could get it down to like 5.75, 5.5, I would say 75 basis points to 1% would probably be worthwhile over the 30 years. And then you just want to negotiate what the refinance is going to cost, right? So you'd want to know how much is the refinance going to cost you versus how much are you going to save. So if you're going to be saving, your refinance is going to cost 5,000 and you're going to save 50, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Worth it.
Good to know.
Right? But if it's like a small change, because remember, you can always prepay your principal. You can make a principal only prepayment on your mortgage. And so you could do that to kind of effectively reduce the interest rate as well. So that's where you want to see a bigger rate in difference before the refinance, because you could probably lower it effectively by making extra payments somewhat. So yeah, you'd want the math to kind of lead you to what the right decision would be.
Got it. Okay.
But I think when I did mine, I did it and it was about 1%.
Okay. And it was worth it and you're happy?
Yeah, it was definitely worth it. I was happy. I was already making principal payments which given how low my interest rate was, I was just doing like an extra $100 a month. But I refinanced for about a 1 point difference, and because of that, made a difference over the 30-year. I also then went to a 20-year mortgage. When you
Got it.
refinance, you can also change the length of your mortgage if you'd like.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah, because like a 20-year is leaner and less interest than a 30-year. Same with
Right, of
15.
course. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind.
Okay, perfect. So
Okay.
mortgage.
Yes. We have a home warranty, which I think is a scam, but we did negotiate it down to $80 a month.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we're about to hit we had a deal 2 years and then 1 year free. So we're about to hit that 1 year free, and then after that, I'm gonna
Okay.
cancel it. And I'm trying to cash flow everything instead of you know pay for the home mortgage warranty. So it's about 80. Our gas and electric, we just set up budget billing, so it'll be about the same every month, 270. Our internet bill is 70. We just switched to a different phone plan, so it's 60 now. I
For
know,
both of
I
you?
know. Yeah, for unlimited
Who
data.
who who
US
is it?
Mobile. US Mobile.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. It's good to
I paid
know.
off my phone. Like I'm really in this. So 60
Okay.
bucks total, which is great. Then our property and car insurance is 130. We have two pets, so we pay 90 for both of them for pet insurance. We have like a home security system, that's about 24. Tell me if this is too granular.
No, this is fine.
Okay, great. We try to budget around 450 for groceries for the month.
Okay.
We're Costco fiends. Um,
I was gonna
then
say 450 for two people for the month is
pretty good,
pretty
right?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're I'm like a pioneer woman. I like to freeze everything and put everything in like bags and Tupperwares, so we don't waste anything. I do a lot of beans, a lot of gardening. So 450 is
Amazing.
what we've landed on, which is pretty good. We do
Okay.
pay for an expensive gym, so that's 271. It's really close to our house. It's convenient. It's nice.
And that's for both of you.
Yeah, that's for both of us.
Okay.
Then I have a therapist that I cannot let go of, and she's out of network, so I pay $400 a month for her. That's 2 sessions. And then that's everything for like basic expenses.
And what does that come to total?
So okay, for it's like 4,200.
Okay. Perfect.
Another thing
Okay.
that I think I was trying to send you was that I have some credit card and personal loan debt that I took out because we were paying for our wedding. I made some bad financial choices. And so, what I decided to do about a year ago is start working with a debt relief company that was suggested to me through my work. So, they've been really
Okay.
great. They have negotiated at least two of my three debts down to almost half. And I pay
Wow.
a
Okay.
smaller monthly amount until and they make payments on my behalf. So it's $404 a month for me to pay the debt relief company,
All of
and that
that.
includes the loan repayments, and then any service fee. I have to pay that until 2028. That's one of the things I wanted to bring up to you because I wanted to know where I should be putting my extra money. Should I be paying more towards that or other things? But I just don't want
And
to
then for
add
the
too much
debt
add.
amount that have they talked to you about any tax ramifications
Uh, no.
for because you're going to settle some of the debt down?
Yes,
Some
so
of it will be discharged.
I have a lawyer that's assigned to my case, and they settle
Okay.
on my behalf. And I'm very nervous about it, so I call them all the time, and they seem really great. They were able to settle my Discover card. The account is closed. I'm just paying a small amount every month. Same thing with one of the personal loans that I settled. That one is also like settled to almost half. There's one more loan that they're still working on, but they haven't talked to me about tax ramifications. I
So check on
that
that. So
okay.
usually dischargement of debt is taxable if it's forgiven, right? If it's
Oh,
not a
okay.
gift. So you
Right.
want to ask if there's going to be any tax ramifications for the amount that was discharged.
Okay. I will definitely ask.
Because yeah, then you just don't want any surprises.
Yeah.
So if I don't know, 10,000 or 15,000 is discharged, ask if there'll be, will like a 1099 be issued for that to have been forgiven or discharged? And so then dischargement of
Okay,
debt usually, and I'm not a tax professional, so this is where you want to verify with the lawyer or maybe a tax professional. You just want to check to see if there'll be any tax ramifications for the settlement.
got it. Okay.
Okay, and that's the credit card debt and the personal loan have all been wrapped into the debt relief company. That's at
Yep.
404. And then do you have any
Yep.
student loans or anything like that?
No student loans. I don't have a car payment. And we don't have any other credit cards with outstanding balances besides like $200 that we're trying to pay off every month.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. And so did it come mostly from the wedding?
So yes, it came mostly from the wedding. There was also I was let go from my job about a year ago, for like totally blindsided me. I'm grateful that I'm no longer there. It was not a great position for me. So I was on unemployment for a while. I was trying to consolidate some credit cards into a personal loan, and then it just the amount that I was paying every single month was almost $1,000, and
Oh,
it
wow.
was panic inducing. It was like too much, and so I kind of found this debt relief company through one of my work programs, and I just like could breathe a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
So it was the right choice for me, but maybe like now that I'm doing all this financial research, I realized that there were other ways to handle it, but here I am.
Yeah, no, that's okay. But I think then it's good going forward because an emergency fund is good because like usually when things go wrong, it's like not always, but
Yeah.
lose your
Yeah.
job, getting married, right? Like
Yeah.
all can kind of all come together at
Right.
once, which can be too
Yeah.
much.
We bought the house in November 2023. I lost my job at the beginning of December 2023, and we got married December 16th of 2023. It was like a
Yeah,
crazy
everything
2 months.
happened at once.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
That's kind of how life goes, though, which is
yep.
why it's good to have the emergency fund. Because I've actually had people say to me, I'm not going to have an emergency. And I'm like, yeah,
You
that's
never
risky.
know.
That's a risky statement. You never know.
Exactly.
No one
So,
plans for an emergency.
yeah.
Like, no one wants to have one. No one's like, I think
No.
this will be a great time to kind of throw everything up in the air and see what happens.
No,
So,
and unemployment was just like not nearly enough to pay for everything,
hmm
and I was already had one loan. It was just bad, and now I'm not going to do that ever again. Like I had my husband take my credit cards, and like we're not doing that again. So, here's where we are.
well, that's good. So you learned a good, so it was a valuable lesson as well, which is
Yes.
good because you're
Yes.
young. Okay, so you're doing that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the debt consolidation company. If you were referred to them by work, you're working with an attorney, it's legit. That's totally
Yeah.
fine. The one follow up I would have is just you want to find out if there's going to be any tax ramifications for any debt that's going to be discharged.
Right.
Um, okay, good.
Thank you.
And then what about your other expenses besides the necessities?
Okay, so I work mostly from home, but about once a week I go into the city. So I have to budget for like train expenses. So I have like
Okay.
on Monarch you can set a flexible budget.
Mm-hmm.
So I have in my flexible budget um about $1,234, which have been kind of budgeted out but can be shifted as I need them.
Allocate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me to go through all of those?
Yeah, I would actually have put the train in your necessity spending
The
because
only
you
thing
have
is
to go to
sometimes I
work.
go in once and sometimes I go in
Mm-hmm.
none and sometimes I go in 3 times. So it changes every month, but maybe I could
Yep.
if you think that that would be something I should put in fixed.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it's a variable expense, but it's not, it's an essential spending, right? To go to
I see.
work. It's
Okay.
not, so yeah, you can leave it where it is, but I guess if I were categorizing, so the reason why I would put it as essential, um, is because you have to go to work, right?
Right.
You can't say,
Right.
no, I don't have money this month for the train.
Right. Right. And I don't
But
ever
from
want
the
that to
standpoint
happen.
of like, yeah, but from the standpoint of emergency funding, like planning for if you lost your job or for emergency, you could go on the lower end because if you lost your job, maybe you have to go to the city for an interview, but you wouldn't have to maybe go every week. But But I would
Right.
probably still consider some of that towards emergency funding. When you're looking at your emergency fund, you want to use your essential spending to kind of calculate
Mhm.
how much you need. And so I would still consider that, because
Okay.
my assumption would be if you lost your job and you needed another job, you might still need the train to go interview.
Right. Okay. Good point. I'll move that to fixed. Okay. So other things in flexible, I have gas for about $100 a month. My husband, he commutes, but
Okay.
he's just about to start a slightly longer commute, so maybe I should
Okay.
change change that to a little higher. So
Yeah, I
I
would
guess I'll,
bump that up a little. Yeah.
yeah, I'll put 200. He drives a Prius, so it shouldn't be too
Okay.
bad. But then, what other stuff? I mean, I have like restaurants, coffee shops.
Yes. So
Okay,
that would be all of your fun money. Those are obviously the things you
okay,
cut out.
right,
If you lost your job or something came up,
right,
you would cut out restaurants, in theory,
yeah. Okay, so
concerts, that sort of stuff.
right, okay, so the other thing that I have right now is pets. That
Okay.
changes every month depending on if we're taking them to the vet, but both of them have just been to the vet. So about $50 for supplies and things.
Okay. And then restaurants?
We have a budget that is very flexible. We try to do $300 a month flat.
Okay.
Sometimes, we'll pull from that if we realize we're needing to spend more in some other category.
Something else?
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't go to eat that
And then,
much.
okay, so then what does that all come to between the train, the gas, your restaurants, and pets,
So
and anything else in
to
there?
well, I have like home improvement, parking.
Okay.
I those things like I don't have a lot of home improvement projects, but sometimes like I need an extra key or something like that, so I always put
Yep.
25 at minimum into those. So like parking, I put $25. Home improvement, we put $25. Coffee shops, I never know, but I put $25 in. That's my like, I just don't want to not put anything into those. um Miscellaneous shopping, I have $25. Electronics, I have $25. Medical, if one of us gets a cold and we need like cold
Yep.
medicine, I put 25. And then miscellaneous, I have 20. So for all of
Okay.
that, I think the flexible budget is 1,234. Oh, I also have for February in particular, I know that I'm going to buy some gifts for like Valentine's Day and my grandmother.
hmm
So we put a 250 gift budget for next month, but that can also be something that if we need to cut down, we can.
Okay. Perfect. So then you're all in between your flexible, which has some necessity spending like gas, train,
Hmm.
parking, and then some
Hmm.
fun and pets, right? You're not going to get rid of your pet.
Right.
But like maybe gifts and restaurants would be considered, your non-necessity spending. So
Hmm.
between that, then I have down that it's about 5,434. We could even say 5,500, give or take.
Hmm. Yeah, and I totally forgot to tell you, we also pay a condo association fee. It comes out
Oh, okay.
quarterly, but monthly it comes out to 325.
Okay, perfect. 325. Okay, so then you're closer to 5,825 a month with
Yeah, that's right.
everything.
Yeah,
Does that sound right?
yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then what do you bring home monthly between you and your husband?
I currently our paychecks are like around 7,500, and that will include his salary bump too.
His salary bump. Okay, so 7,000, say that one more time.
7,500 a month.
7,500. Perfect. Okay.
Hmm.
So then you have a little bit of a gap, or a bit of a gap, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Between what you're bringing home and then what you're
Right.
spending,
And so
even if we round up.
we've been trying to put any of the extra money into like funds to kind of cash
Okay.
flow future things.
Yep.
We currently we have some money saved into an emergency fund in a high yield
Great.
savings account. So we have 8,000 in there right now, and our goal is to put at least $200 a month in there, hopefully more than that, but a little
Okay.
bit is better than nothing.
Yeah,
um
absolutely.
yeah. We have $100 going into a vacation fund every month. And then we also want to have a gift fund for Christmas and the winter holidays. So we are going to put
Yep.
$100 in that. But this is stuff that we've decided is a good idea. Obviously, you're the professional, so you can tell us what is better to allocate where. And then this was a deal that my husband and I made when we combined our finances, is that we each want to have at least a certain amount of money in our personal checkings and savings
Yep.
just as buffer. So we put $50 per person, so a total of 100 into our own personal accounts just to have cushion.
Perfect. Okay, so personal accounts is 100, so you each get
Mm-hmm.
50. And then how much was for the gifts and vacation?
We said $100 a month for gifts, and then I have $200 a month for vacation.
Perfect. And how much do you have in each of those accounts?
Okay, let me look. In our emergency fund, we have $8,150. In our vacation fund, we
Okay.
have $137. Not a lot. And then because it's brand new, and then our gift
Yep.
fund, we have $25.
Okay, perfect. Okay, because it seems like you have to, and tell me if it feels like you have it between your joint income of 7,500 a month and your budget of the expenses we walked through of 5,825. And is that the 5,825? Is that what you're showing? Because I don't know if I included the debt payment, which would bring that up higher.
So I have for fixed $4,922, and then 1,000. Well, I just moved the train to fixed.
Oh,
Just
okay.
recommended. And then 1,270 for flexible. So
Okay.
those, what's the math for that? 1,270 plus
So
one.
that's 6,270.
Oh yeah, and then plus the condo fee, which is under non-monthly, so it
Right.
doesn't get added. So 325.
Okay. So we 5,000 for the fix plus 1,270, right? Did you
Mm-hmm.
said
Mm-hmm.
for the
Yeah,
for the variable plus the
yeah,
condo fee of 325.
that's right.
Okay, so that gets you to roughly 6,600.
Yeah,
Okay, and so then you're bringing in 7,500 gross or not net, 7,500 net a month, and then you have
yeah,
6,600 of expenses, which
yeah,
leaves you a difference of 900 a month. And then of the 900 a month, you're putting 200 towards an emergency fund,
mm-hmm.
which gets you down to 700 plus
Mm-hmm.
200 towards vacation plus 100 towards gifts and 100 towards personal. So then
Yeah,
left over from there, it's about 300, which is not for over the course of a month, could be end up being used for something that could pop
right.
up, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to include one thing. There's
Okay.
in the fixed, I put $200 into my Roth IRA, so that's included in my
Okay.
expenses too.
So that's already factored in.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So you do 200 into your Roth. And that was going
Mm-hmm.
to be my next question is with the 7,500 net, are you both participating in work retirement plans? And I'm presuming insurance is going through there too.
Yes. So I have a Roth IRA that's currently about worth $12,300. And then I
Okay.
have another IRA that's about 5,100. That's from an old job, so I don't actually put into
Okay.
that. I
Anything
have
in?
a
Yep.
pension through my current job, which is great. So they put
That's
about six.
great.
I know. This was a great opportunity. That's why I'm saying like it was worth it for me to not be at that other job. They put about 6,000 in every year, and then it's based on how much I make. So obviously, if I get a raise, it'll be more. And then my husband's
Perfect.
retirement account has about 14,300 in it. So we're about 38,000 in retirement right now.
Okay. Perfect. And then he's contributing in
I
his
think,
401k
yeah, I'm not sure what the percentage is. I think it's like 10%, but he's about
10%.
to
Okay.
get a new IRA soon.
Yeah. So if he gets this pay bump, he's going to have a different work retirement plan
Yeah, I think
because
it's
a new job.
another 401k, but just different account.
Okay. Same company?
No, he's moving. He's like changing
Just
companies, changing
switching.
jobs, but they
Yes.
might
Okay.
have to switch him. Yeah,
Yeah. So when you leave a company, you'll definitely switch retirement plans.
right.
So then he'll have a new one. But 10% is that's a great number. And how old is your husband?
He's 27.
27. Okay, perfect. Okay. And then you're doing the 200 into the Roth and then you have the pension at work. Do you have a work retirement as well?
They don't do a match, so I haven't been
Don't
putting
do a match.
into that.
Okay, but they have something if you want. They have a
Yeah, they have a
403b.
yeah, that's right, 403b. One thing I wanted to ask you was how do we best allocate our money into our retirement accounts? So, I'm sure you have some advice.
I really like the Roth. I think, if you were doing 10% of your gross income, the trick with the Roth is it goes in after tax. But
Right.
if you were doing 10% of your income at 70,000, it would be 7,000 into the Roth. And then that would be what the limit is actually for
Right.
2025. So
That's our goal
that
eventually.
goal, yeah, is to get up there. Yeah, that's what I'd like to see. I think that you're doing a good job with the budget and trying to cash flow things by allocating them. And then I think the debt payoff is good because you're going to get some of that settled. You took it from 1,000 to 400, and then you'll be done, and you'll just check on the tax ramifications. And that is actually so that'll be done in 3 years.
Yeah, that's right.
So what I would do is when that happens is I would use that money for retirement. I would keep the budget the same. And at that point, ideally your incomes have gone up too, but
Yeah.
then that would be used towards retirement. That's how I would allocate that because there's not a ton more wiggle room at the moment. Um,
I
unless
mean,
you
we live
cut
in a
like
really expensive area and
I know
everything. I mean,
Connecticut's
everything's expensive, so
everything is expensive. And you're doing I mean, groceries is usually a pretty big one. The housing is usually a pretty big one, but all of that's really reasonable compared to what your take home is. I guess with the ones that are flexible, like you go to the train once a week versus 3 times a week, or you don't go to restaurants, you could use that to up your Roth,
that's right.
right? Because you can set it for an auto of 200 a month, but then if you get to the end of the month and you have leftover, I would bump up the Roth because the emergency fund's pretty good at 8,000 a month
Right. Our goal is
combined.
31. Like we want to have our
Yeah,
6 months. Especially, down the line when we're ready to have kids, like that we want to have super solid.
yeah. I definitely think you want to have 6 months. You want to keep working up to. It's hard because you want to balance everything. You get the more money you can get into retirement younger, the more time will help it grow versus
Right.
contributions will help it grow. But then you also want to make sure that you have, as you're kind of balancing in the beginning, you're balancing everything, right? Like debt
Right.
payoff. You bought a house, which is great. Emergency fund, vacation, retirement. So don't be afraid that if 1 month something goes over, that's okay. But then another month, if you have extra, bump up emergency and retirement.
Right. Okay.
And what questions did you have specifically?
I mean, I was going to ask you about the retirement. So we have, I mean, I think you kind of answered some of those questions, but I just wanted to know, should we be trying to combine any of our accounts? Should we prioritize like putting money into my Roth over other things? I mean, I think that's what we were landing on anyway.
Yeah, so retirement, usually what I recommend is doing retirement other than the Roth. Like, so you're in an interesting situation because with the 403b, there usually isn't a Roth option inside of the 403b. There might be newer ones, but generally it's just the pre-tax option. There's nothing wrong with the pre-tax option. You can, if you're already swinging, actually maybe the way to do it is try to go into your workplace plan for like 2 or 3% because you won't feel it as much because it's a
Right.
tax deduction. And then between the Roth and that ups your contribution to get closer to your husband because it'd be great to see you both doing 10%. And then
Right.
the way to continue to grow your retirement savings that's painless or less painful is as you get raises at work. So when your husband gets this $5,000 difference is to stay at 10% retirement. And then if
Right.
he gets like a cost of living adjustment or a bump and they say, we're going to give you a 4% raise, then I always taught everyone to split the difference. If you're getting a 4% raise, 2% for the future, which is your retirement, and 2% for today.
Oh, that's really smart. Okay.
because you haven't lived on it, and it's a lot easier for it to go into retirement because it's harder once you get the money in your paycheck to then go back and adjust the
Right.
401k or 403b. So for you, I would get in the workplace plan just because there's not matches are great, right? Then it would be a no-brainer. It still gives you a tax deduction. I would go in for like 2 or 3% because you are doing, so ideally we get you closer to 7,000 total, which would be five. Try the budget's tight right now, so try for like 3% and see how it feels
Okay.
in the 403b. And then keep the Roth, and then you're doing both. Now you have both trains going, the pre-tax and the Roth. It's always nice to have all the different types of money.
Right. Right.
And then the reason why I like workplace plans is because and you want to make sure it's invested. Some people like,
Right.
not that TikTok has good information on there, but you do hear about people who like get in their workplace plan and like then don't invest it. You need to pick
Right.
investments inside of it. Um, but the reason workplace plans are so successful is because it's payroll driven and it's going in on a regular interval. The company has gone through and made sure they're sound investments. Somebody had to pick those. You're not going into a universe, ideally, if you wanted to go do investments, there's 10,000 options. When you go in through your workplace plan, there's like 0 to 25. Someone's already reviewed them and said, okay, these are good. We're going to give them to the employees. And so most of the time when I see people come to retirement, their largest asset is their workplace plan.
Got it. Okay. My open enrollment is soon because I turned 26
Okay.
anyway and I have to get on my own health insurance, which feels so adult. So I'll register at the same time. Uh, Thank you. I had one
So
more
yeah, I would do
question.
that, and then with your Roth, and then so the way to increase the retirement is as you both get raises through work is to keep inching up the contribution levels, and then ideally when you're both closer to 30, your numbers are closer to like 15%
Right.
towards
Do we
retirement, and then you're still doing the emergency fund.
do you have a goal for where we should try and aim for at 30? Like, I mean, when we turn 30 or when we turn 35, how much should we have saved? I mean, I know it depends on the cost of living, but
The cost of living and like life circumstances. Some people have debt, some people don't have debt, some people
right.
rent and don't have a mortgage. So there's a lot of factors. I think I saw something by Fidelity that you want to have at 31 times your salary.
Okay.
So, but
That's a stretch, but we'll try.
yeah, that's a stretch. But so that's why I'm saying that it doesn't need to be there. What you want to make sure you're doing is that you're laying a good foundation. And in your 20s generally is not where you're making your peak income. You're usually making your peak income in your 30s and your 40s. But if you set yourself up with really good habits now and you get the debt paid off, you already bought a house, then when you get into those higher earning years, you have that foundation, you have the emergency fund, you already own a house, right? You've paid off all your debt. Then you can start really putting more away.
Right.
So you just want to work. You have a lot, of things that we're trying to do. So that's why I don't like the benchmarks for a reason, because it's a benchmark. It doesn't take into account personal circumstance. And so the goal, right, is that you're doing all the right things, and you are. So you're saving for retirement, you're saving for emergency fund, and you're reducing debt.
Okay. Good.
So that's what you want to do. And
Yeah.
some people might be able to get to that number at 30, and some people it might be 35. Well, I'll be completely honest. So what I had saved at 29 was $100,000, and my income when I left, my base salary was like 180. So I wasn't there. I had started a business, so it took time to wait tables, use my savings to build a business, which did not work. It's not a great investment. And so, but it was really bad. I mean, I guess I learned a lot from failing, but it was a
Right.
very expensive failure in terms of my savings. So what I had left at 29 after I'd done that, and then I bought a business. So I really grew my net worth the most from when I bought the business till I just turned 40 till 40. And it's a dramatic, dramatic difference from $100,000. So don't let that discourage you. That's why I don't like the benchmark, because I didn't
Got
hit
it.
it either. And now where I am, I'm like way, way, way way above. But I
Right.
did that all, it was like a hockey stick. I did all the right things the whole time. And then I saved, I was frugal, but I didn't have, I took a step back to buy a business. I started a business. All that didn't work out until this business. And then it hockey sticked.
Got it. So it's I still have potential. I'm not behind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
The
good.
thing that you can't, here's what I'll say. If you can't manage $10,000, you can't manage 100.
Right.
It's habits. It's
Right.
habits. If you don't form the habits young, as your incomes grow, you'll never be successful. So right now you're building your, if you think about it, like how you're building your financial foundation and you're doing all the right things. You're reducing the debt, you're saving for retirement, you're building an emergency fund, and you're managing your cash flow. You know what your expenses are, you know what your income is, and then you adjust it monthly. It's not perfect. And you don't have to hit those targets to be successful. To be successful, you need good habits.
Right. Okay. That makes me feel better.
Because what I tell people, because I've had people come in and they're like, well, I'm behind. And I'm like, yeah, but if you get to where you want to go, does it matter to you if you get there at 40 or you get there at 45? Would you just completely give up? If I said to you, you're going to hit everything you want, but you're not going to get it at 40, you're going to get it at 46. Would you say, well, then I'm not doing it. I don't care. It's too,
No,
no,
I would
time
still do
passes
it.
anyway. Yeah,
Right.
you'd still do it. So
Right.
we don't always have control over when we're going to hit all of our goals, but if you learn the right habits, you'll get there eventually. So like for me, at 30, I expected to be a millionaire. I was not. I had 100,000. I had botched one business and then I was about to buy another business, but then I hit all of the numbers I wanted to hit and more by 40. So you just have to give yourself some grace. What you're doing is right, which is building the good foundational habits. And so you'll get there. But don't, my advice would be not to get hung up on the age you have to hit the number, just that you
Okay.
want to get to a certain place. And if you arrive, it's like if you get on the train, you still get there, but sometimes the train gets delayed and there's really not
Right.
a whole lot you can do about that. So
Got it.
you're still on the ride. You just, might be 20
Right.
minutes late. So
Okay.
if you're going to get the house, you have the house, which is great. You'll get to the savings number. You might not get there at 30, but maybe you get there at 33 or 34.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
But I think the key would be both be in your work plans. You can be in your work plan for less because you're going to do the Roth and then you're doing
Right.
both. I think the work plan is just a good habit. And then when you get the raises, it gives you that ability to easily go in and switch the contribution.
Right.
Your husband will be in the work plan. And then what I would do is with extra money, if throughout the month, if you don't go to dinner or you don't use the train or you don't use parking, allocate that towards emergency fund and retirement.
Okay. And you think that the 31, 32 mark is a good
Yep.
goal for our retirement? Okay, great. I mean for emergency fund?
For emergency fund, yeah, I would do about 6 months of money. That being said, you've already lost your job, so you would get, if you get let go, you get unemployment, and then you would also cut stuff back, right? You wouldn't go on vacation,
Right,
ideally, if you
right.
look your job. So you could
Right.
cut the budget, make it a little tighter. I mean,
Right,
some
of
people
course.
do. They lose their job, and like, I need a vacation, but like not, you know, if you have
That's
another
if
one
you
lined
have a
up,
lot of
fine.
money. Yeah.
Yeah, that's even a
Uh
lot. But yeah, I
yeah,
would
I mean
work to like the 31,000.
okay, great. I mean it seemed like a such a big number when I was doing all the math and watching your videos and everything. And so I was like, "Oh, okay, how can we get there?" But we'll make it. I have faith.
Yeah, you're not far from 10,000. 10,000 will be the first one. Make sure it's in you said it's in a high yield savings account. So you want to make some
Yeah.
interest on it.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
we got a 4.5% APY
Oh,
interest rate for our account.
great. Where is that?
It's a we looked at Nerd Wallet and like, you know,
Yeah.
compared, but it's a Forbright bank.
Oh,
They're like
okay. I've not heard of them.
eco-friendly bank. Apparently
Great.
they make like eco investments and then they had this great deal. So we put our vacation fund and our emergency fund in that, which
In
is good.
there. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great rate. Yeah, so keep working towards 10,000 is better than nothing. 15
Right.
is still great. And just work your way towards 31.
Right. And
Because
then
then
as my salary increases, we want to increase the goal for the emergency fund,
yes.
correct? Okay, good.
Yes. Well, if your expenses increase, just because your salary increases does not necessarily mean your expenses increase.
Right. I just mean, do I want to? Oh, I see. Because it's
Hmm.
expenses.
Your
Ah,
emergency fund is based on expenses, not based on your salary.
right. Okay. Good to know.
So that's
That
where
makes
you can
sense.
really change your financial picture. Because if you keep your expense, if you're really good with your cash flow and you guys are living comfortably, you can add a little bit to your lifestyle and say, I'm not going to be as much of a pioneer woman. I'm going to only do that 5 days a week, not
Right.
7. I'm going to put 100 more towards groceries, 100 more towards restaurants. That's fine.
Right. I'm gonna buy
But if your
hand soap at
expenses
Whole
say,
Foods.
yes, exactly. So if your expenses stay relatively the same, it isn't a huge increase, right? As if you're
Right.
fixed, because right, once again, now you're adding more to restaurant. That wouldn't affect your emergency fund because you would cut restaurants if you lost your job. You see?
Right. Right. Okay. That makes sense.
So that's where you get to really increase your net worth a lot when you get these increases in income, because in theory, your fixed expenses, right, like gas, parking, utilities, condo fees, the debt payment will go away, but debt payment in the near term, mortgage, that all stays fixed, right? So your emergency
Right.
fund is tied to those expenses. So, so in theory, when you're done with your emergency fund, as long as your lifestyle, your fixed expenses stay comparable to what we're discussing, you're done with the emergency fund. And then you move
Right.
towards increasing retirement and investments and opening an investment account.
Got it. So goals are debt and emergency, then more in retirement, then investment, which I just haven't
Yes.
even opened my brain to that part yet.
Yeah, that's okay. That might be that'll probably be a few years away, but that's kind of the structure. Because and then what happens is everything gets easier. Like if you've ever watched a house get built, getting ready to lay the foundation and and then all of a sudden the house goes real fast once it's like
Right.
the walls are
It,
up, right? It just moves really quickly. But the beginning part moves really slow, like laying the foundation, getting the electrical and the plumbing and all of that. And then all of a sudden the house moves really quick at the last stages. It's the same thing with your finances. Once the
got
emergency fund is done and the debt is paid, well, then we're done. We've checked those boxes. Unless something material changes in your fixed expenses, you have enough for 6 months of your fixed expenses. And then you start increasing retirement. And then you start increasing, then you can add an investment account, a non retirement investment. So
got it. Okay.
it's like brick
Great.
by brick.
Okay. It feels like there's hope that this will all get done.
It will all get done. Yeah, it just takes time. And that's why I was the same way. Like I was like, I have to have all of this done by 30. And then I didn't. And so that's why, I think it's Fidelity was like at 30 you should have this, at 40 you should have this. You don't have to have that. As long as you're on the right path,
Right.
doesn't to me it doesn't matter if you get there at 32 or 30, you still got there. And
Right.
it'll just get easier. The thing is what I see with people is if you come in at 40 and you have 20 years of bad habits where you don't know what you're spending your money on, you haven't saved anything, it's very hard to unlearn those habits, right? To change those.
Right. You're steering a bigger ship
That's the
the other
problem.
way. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is hard to learn how to budget when you've never budgeted. Now all of a sudden
Right.
you're like, oh, wait, I'm 40. I have nothing for retirement. That's
Yeah.
like more of a problem to me than like hitting a arbitrary benchmark that Fidelity came out with.
Right. Right. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions?
I mean, I guess more open ended. Is there anything else that you wish you had known at, 25 or 26 in your mid to late 20s that you wish you had done financially? What should
That's a
I
good
do
question.
besides what I'm doing already?
So I actually think you're doing everything right. I think the only other thing that I would say is with the mortgage, the one thing to consider would be maybe term insurance, like to see like if it's statistically unlikely, but if you were to lose your spouse or he were to lose you, could you afford the mortgage? Maybe in that situation, you would take on a roommate instead to swing
Right.
the mortgage. So I don't think it's immediately pressing because I do think you'd both have enough to support the mortgage. Things would be tighter. You might need a roommate.
Hmm.
Um, but maybe as you get closer to 30, because you said maybe we'll have a family, I would
Yeah.
look at term insurance as
That's life
things,
insurance,
because
right?
in life insurance, yeah,
Okay. Right.
it's especially for women, if you're healthy and you're female, this generalization, under 30, really cheap.
Oh, okay.
So if you know in your head, like we want to have kids, in
I mean,
our early
definitely
30s.
before that happens, I was thinking life insurance and like wills and
Yep.
estates. And
Yep.
I saw in your
Okay,
video,
perfect.
don't leave your house to your kids. I'm learning.
You can't leave them to if they're minors. You can't leave
Right,
it to them if they're
exactly.
babies. Yeah, okay.
Right.
If they're adults, yeah, you can give it
Well,
to
yeah,
them or you can
then,
leave it to
but
them. Yeah. But yeah, people put down, yeah, you can't put down a baby as your beneficiary because a baby
yeah.
can't sign for anything
No.
legally or physically. You can't have a toddler be
Right.
like, okay, I'm gonna take the house. I'm 3. Um, People do though.
Yeah.
Like people will be like, "Oh, I want to." I'm like, "How old?" And they're like, "Oh, 7." I'm like, "No, 7-year-olds can't sign legal documents." Um,
Right.
so yeah, when you get a little closer to just like one like immediate to do is get in your work plan for a little bit, 2-3% something, so you have your toe in the water
Mm-hmm.
there. You can use that to increase as you get raises, and then check on whether there's going to be tax ramification for the dischargement of debt. And then down the line, as you get closer to 30, 29, 30, 31 would be probably pretty comparable. But if you think you want to have children, I would do I would look at term insurance, and then yeah,
Okay.
once you do have
Right.
children, I would do a will, and make sure where does the insurance go, who takes care of the kids. That's when you're like really adulting because now
Right.
you have other human beings that you have to look out for.
Yeah. And that's why I feel like I owe it to my future family that we're really on good financial footing when they're here. It feels like the right
Yeah,
thing to do.
it makes life easier if you can remove some of the financial pressures, is what I think.
And just the habit too. I mean, when we're
Yep.
bleary-eyed and taking care of babies, like we want to just have this be ingrained.
System. Yeah, this becomes
Yeah.
a system.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how it works well. Yeah, no, I think you're on the right track. So
Oh,
just
good.
you have to
Thank
give
you.
it some time to cook.
Right. All right. It's cooking.
It's cooking. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And for all of our lovely listeners, you can follow along at Future Rich Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and our website, which is www.futurerichpodcast.com. Time for our disclaimer. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance references are historical and do not guarantee future results. Make sure that you consult with your own legal, tax, and/or financial advisor before making any decisions.